Mr. Howard. Okay, I'm going to keep talking. Hopefully, they can hear. Um, so, in one of the sessions, he talked about a study. I believe it was a Harvard study that where they followed two groups of students. One, and these two groups were from the similar demographics, similar um, financial status of parents, similar home environment, similar neighborhood, to kind of eliminate that factor. And one group had some strong intellectual virtues, so they got really strong grades. And according to the survey, the moral virtues, they did not rate it as highly. So they were more intended, they were more focused on getting good grades and not so much on maintaining good character. And then the other group rated highly on the moral virtues, but they didn't get straight A's. And they ended up mostly going to state colleges. So this group of researchers followed both groups for 24 years. So not just college and getting a good job, but they followed them, they tracked them for 24 years. And 24 years later, they asked them to rate their happiness, their level of happiness, wealth, and what was the third one? Health, wealth, and happiness. Yeah, three things. So they rated on those three categories. And the group that emphasized moral virtues not only rated highly in happiness, which is obvious, but also in the health and wealth too. That group ended up making more money than the group that ended up going to Ivy League school. So it's a published research. If you wanna look it up, if you're interested, I highly recommend reading his book. Again, his name is Dr. Lennon Sachs, and it was just really um, just refreshing to hear the data behind what we believe. So anyway, just wanted to share that regarding our mission. Can they hear now? Okay. All right, commitment of norms. These are the norms that our parents helped us draft to stay committed to our pillars. Please join me in reading the definition next to each. Responsibility, to lead first and lead by example. Respect, courage, courtesy, honesty, citizenship. So wanted to remind you that this is what we teach our students. And I always say the best way to teach a child to be virtuous is by demonstrating yourself. So you know, let's make sure that we become the examples instead of telling them to be virtuous, which Dr. Peterson talked about. That's really impossible. Nobody is born virtuous. They don't know how to be virtuous naturally. You have to teach it to them and be explicit about what that means. So he talked about bringing down the abstract idea of virtue into age appropriate bite-sized action goals. So I think it's important to demonstrate and show them and also talk to them about why it's important. Okay, updates. We'll go ahead and start with Ms. Thomas giving some school event updates.
Can everybody hear me? Yes, good morning. I'm going to start by saying I'm literally going to read you straight out of Eagle News. It comes out every Wednesday at 8 o'clock on the dot, and it has as much information as we can possibly give you about upcoming events. We try very hard as a staff to make sure that we are very clear in what's coming, when it's coming, and who should participate. So on our list of upcoming events, this morning is included. Next would be the AAC meeting tomorrow. It's been a very hot topic on our parent Facebook page that we will be discussing new uniform vendors. So tomorrow, Dennis, Uniform, and Vicky Marcia will be here on campus. We highly encourage you to attend. I've taken detailed notes of the parent conversation on Facebook, so we will be discussing that as an administrative team and office team tomorrow before presenting to you
Can I
together.
say something about that?
Yes,
I just
please
think
do.
our parents are so funny. We talk about intervention and academic philosophy, and I think we have like 8 parents here. And then uniform, we got over 100 comments. And we talked about this yesterday. And we are like, we're not so nervous about this session, but the uniform discussion, we're a little nervous.
It's going to be dicey.
And what I said was, you know what? If we have hundreds of parents being very passionate about uniforms and they have strong opinions about uniforms and they're not as worried about the academic, then that's a good sign. I think it's a good sign that parents trust us, but they just care a lot about uniforms.
So there you go. Stay tuned for what will probably be an interesting discussion. Next, I put it in bold because so many questions have come in through the front office, but our last and final makeup school pictures will be February 15th. That is next week, so get those haircuts. The same day is Mr. Davis's Socratic Town Hall. We actually are very fortunate. We have guests all the way from Hillsdale coming to join us that day, as well as our board members. So we encourage all parents to attend, but please RSVP so that Mr. Davis and I don't end up having way too many children to account for. The next day will be the middle school open house, Aperta. Our middle school students and staff have put together a full evening of performances and presentations. It starts directly at 6 o'clock, so please come if you have a middle schooler or if you have a 5th grader this year and are interested in learning about our middle school program. President's Weekend is coming up, and then we also have a used uniform sale on the 24th of February. We pretty much take donations for that year round. You're welcome to bring them by the office, but that day we will be selling them after school instead of on a Saturday. So hopefully that makes it easier for parents to get to. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and on growth and development, Ms. Park and Mr. Roma and myself had this really exciting experience on Friday and Monday, which was if you had 7 acres to build on, what would you build? Because that's the conversation we had. We sent a first run at that to our developers over at Red Hook. They came back with a cost point that said, try to stream this down a little bit. So we had a conversation on Friday and Monday. With Monday, we also had Mr. Colin Polanyi, who's part of BCSI, to help us create a little bit more realistic scope around this. So that scope of work is now in the hands of Red Hook, and they're in the process of coming up with pricing numbers to see what that looks like. If those fall within our hopeful range on Monday, we'll probably be in a process of making some kind of request or offer to a property you've probably already heard about. It's about 2 miles away off Santiago Canyon Road. It's about 7 acres. It's a lot of land, but if this plan plays out, we're not just talking about an upper school, we're also talking about increasing, having an additional lower school and upper school on this property. It's just that big. So that's in process. And then if you were in attendance or heard our upper school town hall about a month ago, you'll know that there's another path we're pursuing as well. For a variety of political reasons, we can't talk about that as much, but if you have any questions on that front, feel free to reach out to me after the meeting.
Good morning, everyone. I wanted to give a quick update for lower school, and I'm also going to be sort of sharing what I wrote in the Eagle News this morning. Our 3rd through 5th graders have completed or are almost done with their interim assessments. And interim assessments, I know sometimes all of the acronyms and all of the testing gets a little confusing. So interims are not actual tests. They're sort of like practice tests that mimic the actual SBAC or CASP assessment at the end of the year. And it's a really good opportunity for our students to be in a testing environment, use the accommodations that have been applied for them, and also to kind of see what these test questions look like. So that's what they have done and are almost done with now. Next week, or the following week, sorry, teachers are going to be hand scoring some portions of that test and analyzing, how their students did, trying to figure out where are areas in the curriculum that they need to sort of fill out more. And so it's a very good opportunity for students and also teachers to sort of prepare for the test. We don't teach to the test, but there are aspects of the test that we do need to understand better so that our students are prepared. Our TK through second grade students have recently completed their benchmark assessments, so you should be getting reports sent home soon from the MAP growth benchmark. And it's, those will go home on the 21st. And just keep in mind, this is only the second benchmark that our students have taken. So if you are a parent who, is kind of expecting to see a lot of growth, you might, but you also might not. And so we don't want you to be too concerned. Parent-teacher conferences are also coming up, so that would be a great time to talk to the teacher about just understanding the report better. But we will have a third benchmark before the end of the school year, and I think that will give kind of a clearer picture of how the students have progressed throughout the year. So please bring up your concerns with the teacher, but also know that this is our first time taking these benchmarks this year, and it's only the second benchmark. And so by the end of the year, we should have more of a clear picture of how the students have progressed. The other thing I wanted to share is that next week, Ms. Thomas sort of alluded to this, but I think 7 team members from Hillsdale, from BCSI, are going to be coming to our school to visit us. And we're very excited. Most of them are coaches. And so on Tuesday, when they're here, they're going to be observing our teachers. And I'm creating a schedule right now so that each teacher gets a fair amount of time for the coach to come in, and they'll be observed in either literacy or math, not both, just one of the subjects. And that coach will be an expert in that topic. And so they will be taking notes. And then on Wednesday, the team will be here again. And so I'm going to schedule times for the teacher, the coach, and myself or Mrs. Moat to sit in with those teachers and to hear the feedback and to ask questions and allow the teacher to ask questions. So we're very thankful. We're really excited because this is the kind of support I think that we really need. And so Tuesday and Wednesday, we will all be dressed very nicely and very happy here early and staying late. So please join us for the town hall and also the aperta.
How about now? All right, great. Just had to test them all out. So quick update, students and staff, we're 1-1 right now, in case you didn't know. We beat the students in basketball, and they beat us in flag football a couple weeks ago. So not that anybody's tracking, that's the biggest update on campus right now. But also with upper school, we're doing our interims. We just started last week. It's a great opportunity for us to kind of check our bell schedule, have students become familiar with just the testing environment, and then also making sure all our technology is working, our Wi-Fi is up for them. So when we do take the S back later in the year, we're up to date. So it's kind of a practice run for us as well, and letting our students become familiar with it. We've already seen a few hiccups in our own schedule, and good thing it's low stakes, right? It's just practice. That way we can make sure that we have a better session, testing environment for our students when we actually take it and it goes on record and it represents our school for the state. I know that's not what we all bank on, but we also understand the reality of it. So we want to make sure our students are in the best position to take that test. But other than that, I mean, upper school's going well. Our students are, really adjusted on campus. We're having a great time. Everyone's starting to figure it out. At the same time, though, we're also seeing they're becoming a little more comfortable with each other, good and bad. So, some of the things that we want to talk about that, I think Ms. Park brought up is helping our students recognize what they can control. So as parents, it's very helpful to have those conversations. In certain situations, you always have the opportunity to tell someone you don't like something or you disagree with them, and you also can always walk away, right? So those are some of the conversations we're always working on with our students, is helping them understand that part of the virtue where, you can be extreme on either side, right? Pretend it doesn't exist and sit in the corner and be upset but not say anything, or sit on the other side and be extremely angry and let everybody know you're upset, right? So helping them find the middle, right? Always helping them find the middle. That's a big conversation in middle school because they're trying to figure out what kind of adults they want to be and who they're going to be, and they're going to practice. They're going to test each side of it. So our biggest part is partnership with parents. In middle school, that's what we ask for all the time is, let's partner with them, carry those conversations on. So with upper school, that's a big thing right now. So if you could do that at home, we'll continue those conversations here. And then back to uniforms too. If they're coming out of the car or going to the car out of uniform, please have that conversation with them, right? And then of course from there, other decisions, once again, it's in their control. It's their choice sometimes. But then there's also consequences that come with that and rewards for those that do it right. So just continue that conversation, look at uniforms, help us out because that's always an ongoing conversation. But that's announcements from upper school.
And I just wanted to add to that, now that we have middle school this year, we're dealing with a different level of age group, right? And this age group, they're really learning to test their boundaries. And that's normal at that age. And I've heard from a lot of middle school parents that the school is a little too strict. And we don't like to be perceived to be just strict, but we want to take that opportunity to really be able to have these conversations about moral virtues, right from wrong, with our students and parents. We don't believe in just having private conversation just between the school staff and students only. We want to engage the parents. And so when we do reach out to share some of the specific incidents that happen, it's not from the stance of wanting to punish them or because we're righteous and we want them to follow certain rules. It's really just, we want to be able to talk about the choices that they're making, both good and bad, and because that's what they're going to be facing as an adult. And so before they enter that adulthood, we want them to practice making good decisions and not so much worry about getting caught or not, but really just doing the right thing and protecting their hearts, because that is our mission. So just wanted to share that and throw that out there. And I know that as parents, it's never easy getting a phone call and getting told something wrong that your child did. I'm on the same boat too as a parent. But just wanted to share that proactively to kind of shift that mindset a little bit and join us in our philosophy of really shaping the whole child. Okay, we'll go ahead and jump into homework support and intervention. And please hold on to your questions until the end.
Okay, so we realized that, it's second semester, our students, what teachers are doing now is really preparing them for the next grade. It may feel a little early, it may feel a little soon, but it's a really good way to sort of continue the expectations that we have for our students, and then to get them also excited about just growing up and progressing and moving forward. And so we thought it would be a great opportunity for us to talk with you all about homework and also the ways that we support the students who need extra support. So I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about homework, giving reminders about guidelines and expectations. And these are from our family handbook that you've all received. Mrs. Moat is going to be talking about MTSS, COST, SST, and benchmark assessments. And I know that's a lot of acronyms. She is going to go over each one. So if we could go to the next slide, I will begin by talking about homework. So every student will have some homework every day. This does not include TK and it does not include kinder in the first semester. Students in grades K through 8 should spend 20 to 30 minutes every evening reading or being read to. And students can expect 10 minutes of homework per grade level plus additional time for reading. So that's kind of the general expectation for homework. The purpose of homework, it's an opportunity for students to actively and consistently contribute to their own education. They can review and practice in order to support retention of material. And homework really is an opportunity to create habits of responsibility, time management, and diligence. This is really your child's first real opportunity to practice these kinds of habits, especially coming from a teacher and not from a parent. So it's a really good way to build these habits for your child. Designated times, going back to the handbook, designated times are guidelines. Each student works, as you know, at a different pace. And there's other factors to consider, like the amount of work assigned on a given day. Sometimes it's a little bit more, and sometimes it's a little bit less. It might also depend on an individual student's organizational skills and study habits. You know, if your child takes 15 minutes just to kind of get all their stuff out and ready, that's going to add to the homework time overall, right? There are varying abilities of students, and then also the nature of the assignment sometimes can vary. I just taught a math lesson in 3rd grade, and it was on long division, and I've been a 3rd grade teacher, and I remember how hard that topic was. So I can only imagine that homework when it went home that night. I don't know, some of the kids may have struggled with it, and maybe some of the parents have tried to help and struggled with it too. So I have some more guidelines on the next slide to help parents. So regarding late homework and incomplete homework, students who have an excused absence will have the number of days equal to the number of days absent to make up the class and homework. And that's without any penalty. Each teacher, this is all from the handbook, each teacher will share his or own homework procedures and policies with students and parents at back to school night each year. So at the beginning of the year, it is really important to hear what the teacher has to say about homework and then ask those questions then. Of course, you can ask questions throughout the year, but if there's any confusion or concerns, it's really important that you share those in the beginning. Parents may make a note on the homework if a student is struggling and unable to complete it. This is really, really important. We would never expect a parent to reteach something that the student doesn't understand. That's our responsibility. And so teachers really own that. And, you know, we've talked a lot about this issue in particular because depending on the topic, depending on the student, struggling with homework is a normal and, you know, common thing that happens all the time. So if your child is struggling with something, don't unless it's something very simple that you can help them with, don't try to reteach that topic to them. Just put a little sticky note, or you can send a dojo message to the teacher. You know, my child really tried to figure this out, had a really hard time. I told him, don't worry about it. You know, homework is not meant to be done for hours and hours. We're going to just leave it, and your teacher's going to reteach it to you tomorrow. And that's really the expectation from teachers. And we want to let parents know too. We don't want you spending your whole evening trying to figure this out with your child. And sometimes it can actually confuse them. Yeah, with parent support at home, students are expected to learn how to use their time effectively to complete the assigned homework. If parents can just remember that homework, of course, content is involved, but it's really creating the habit of being responsible, of using your time well, of putting your materials back in your backpack when you're done. It's those kind of practical study skills and habits that we want homework to accomplish. Okay.
All right,
Sorry.
thank you so much.
Sorry, Ms. Mo, can I add something else
Please
too?
do.
So we were reminded at the conference too that when it comes to behavior, and I hear this a lot from parents who get really frustrated, and most of the time it's because of the moral virtues that the child does not want to do homework or doesn't even try or just says, I don't remember how to do this, and there's no effort that they're putting into. And parents get frustrated because they want to help them, but they can't, right? And they reach out to the school. So if anything, in terms of the academic content, that's what Mrs. Sir is referring to. Please don't try to help them with the academic support. If that happens, simply message your teacher and let them know what they struggled with and leave it up to the teacher to support them with intervention. But with the moral virtues, we do want you to work, with us. And that's by far a lot more important than knowing how to solve a problem. So at the conference, they said, instead of because I think a lot of times, and even us as staff teachers and parents too, we make the same mistake of, don't do this instead. Sit up straight, get started. You're taking a long time taking out your packet, right? And setting timers and things like that. And that's more just addressing the immediate solution. But taking the time to really talk about how that moral virtue will get them farther in life is important. And they said, instead of modifying behavior, because that's what modifying behavior is, and it's so easy to do that, we want to cultivate good habits. So cultivate good habits instead of modifying behavior. Sometimes you are going to have to modify behavior, and our teachers do that too. But if we just focus on modifying behavior, students are going to associate being told, don't do this, do that, with being virtuous is really hard. And being virtuous is difficult. And that's something that's outside of my will or outside of my boundary. So that's really dangerous. We want them to make a strong connection and be motivated to be virtuous. And in order to do that, we have to shift their mindset and focus on cultivating good habit. And that's not something that you expect from them naturally. You got to teach it to them. This is how you might want to get started on homework. You have to make sure that your desk is clean. Make sure that you take out your packet and you're sitting straight. Make sure your paper is slanted to the left because you're right-handed. Do you have 3 sharpened pencils? Go over that step by step, and that will help us so much with at least getting the moral virtues there for completing homework.
Thank you. Along with making sure that we're explicit with teaching our virtue, modeling virtues, we are cultivating those good habits. And so here at our school, we're talking about moral virtue and intellectual, with an emphasis on moral virtues first. That very much ties into our intervention philosophies and our supports at our school, where we are looking at a whole child mindset. It is not just academic. And so what I want to do today is talk to you a little bit about that intervention support and what that looks like on our campus, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you might have afterwards. You might have heard the term MTSS. We have these data talks throughout the year as a team. It stands for Multi-Tiered System of Support. MTSS is a framework of support at all levels of instruction in order to help every student in the school succeed. It's building supports in place that will benefit both students as well as educators to support our students. The California MTSS framework provides the structure needed to achieve an inclusive, equitable, and positive learning environment for each and every child. Our data collection process is ongoing and is collected throughout the year. We take 3 opportunities as a team to talk and meet as a team to analyze this data and think about the best way that we can serve our students and meet them where their needs are at. When we are looking at data collection, I tried to encompass kind of a wheelhouse here of everything that we look at so you can get a glimpse of what that is. That's not only academic progress, but it's attendance, tardies, social and emotional. It's looking at our students' English language status, SPED status, our free and reduced lunch population, our students who might be in SST or 504 and need additional accommodations in the classroom. It's looking at our benchmark or MAP data that we'll talk about in a little bit, and the CASP data, which is our California state testing known as SBAC at the end of the year. So our team, which consists of admin, school psych, SPED, teachers, and IAs come together throughout the year with a whole child mindset by analyzing data in all of these areas so that a holistic understanding of each child's strengths and needs can be considered. Now, part of a strong MTSS framework is that we're not just meeting 3 times throughout the year to think about our students and their needs. This process is ongoing. And in order to make sure that we've built a strong overall system of supports here at our school, we have started this year with a new program called COST. New to us, not new in other schools. COST stands for a Coordination of Services Team. And this is a program that provides opportunities for educators to have ongoing conversations throughout the year centered around student support. This team works together to identify students who need additional support in the classroom in the whole group setting. And together, we build the appropriate interventions that can help a student be successful in the classroom, out at recess, out at lunch, and throughout their day. So what is COST? COST teams identify and address student needs holistically, meaning again, we're looking at the whole child and we're referring students by teachers, admin, speech, school psych. Anyone can refer a student for any of those needs or systems of supports that we talked about a little bit earlier. COST ensures that there's universal access to preventative support. So we want to make sure that when we see a need or we think there might be a need, we talk about how to help deliver those early interventions to support students to be successful in the whole group setting. COST helps us as staff gain a better understanding of our students' needs as a team so that teachers don't feel as though they don't have support. We are all working together as a team throughout the year to increase the options available to support those needs before more intensive interventions might be needed, such as an SST, an individualized education plan, or before a 504 becomes necessary. So why do we use COST? At OCCA, it develops and monitors interventions. This is a way that we can track student progress and see how our students are doing in meeting their grade level expectations and our students succeeding with the interventions in place. The COST team identifies students who then need to be referred for more intensive interventions, such as SST or an assessment. These are a lot of acronyms. So what is SST? What would be the next step? SST stands for Student Success Team. And in the lower school, I am the SST coordinator, and in the middle school, Mr. Romo is the SST coordinator. The purpose of SST is to problem solve around concerns based off information that was collected. And again, that data collection can be academic, speech and language, social emotional, or behavioral difficulties. And we work together to identify supports in the general education setting, which allows students to be successful in that setting. It also allows us an opportunity to progress monitor every 6 to 8 weeks with these new system of supports that are in place to see how our students are doing. SST is only appropriate after interventions have already been tried in the classroom or in the whole group setting. 3 SST meetings are held throughout the year, consisting of the SST coordinator, teachers, and parents, and students as appropriate. SST is strongly recommended before making any remediation for an assessment, such as a 504 or an IEP. This year, another form of data collection that you've heard a lot about are our benchmark assessments. And this year, we are very thrilled to partner with MAPS to collect that data and support our students. As part of our benchmarks in TK through 5th grade, our students take a literacy benchmark as well, because as you know, our Literacy Essentials program is a foundational skill in the elementary grades that we want to make sure we're measuring progress for our students. And then MAP growth benchmarks are 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring. And these are taken in 1st through 8th grade in both math and reading. And kinder is math only as they're still learning to read. And so we focus strongly on our literacy supports as well as the math benchmark. And it's been so great. The first time we did our kinder benchmarks, Ms. Sir, myself, the kinder teachers, the kinder IA, we supported in small group, and they just thought it was the best thing ever to be able to have these computers in front of them, use the touch screen, and they thought it was this really fun game. And when they were done, can we keep going? We'll do it again another time. But what we found is that they were thriving and doing so well in it. It was a great way to track their growth and where they're at. And so in the future, we do think they're going to be able to do this whole group as well. They're very well prepared for first grade. MAP allows for streamlined and adaptive testing for all students. So it will adjust to the level of your student. As your student does better, the difficulty increases to see their highest level of instruction. And it provides really clear and helpful results that can help teachers guide instruction as well. As you get your second report back, if your child's in TK through second, you'll be getting that on February 21st. And if your child is in third and up, you may have already received those reports with the last round of report cards. You're going to notice there are 2 points of testing for the fall and the winter. And the second part is their growth. What we want to see overall from beginning to end of the year is that growth. And like Mrs. Sir said, that may not be quite just yet, but from our first testing period in fall to spring, our goal is to see overall growth. Something that's really neat is that for students in the testing grades 3rd through 8th, these standards are aligned to the state standards, and it predicts their how prepared they are for state testing. So you might see something as projects your child to meet the state standards, projects your child to exceed or nearly meet. And it provides teachers with suggested focus areas to support children in getting from one step and those scaffolds that they need to succeed in those standards. So it's very supportive to guiding instruction, repacing, and addressing gaps in the curriculum as well. Our school uses these reports as part of our MTSS data talks and COST to hold strength-based conversation and drive instruction in meaningful ways. Teachers use these reports to understand individual strengths and needs, and we're always looking at the individual. We're not comparing to a class norm or a class average. And we also really love that there are family reports that can be sent home to make sure that you are in the know of how students are doing after each benchmark. And these reports do help measure growth as well. Okay, so we're now on to our Q&A section. If you have any questions about anything that was shared today as it pertains to our school processes around intervention or homework, now is a great time to ask those questions.